Greetings, welcome to a video on practice problem 11 from section 2.2. Been getting a lot of requests to go over this problem with folks. So what we've got here is we've got Leonard, who is starting a new business making cartoon bed sheets. His monthly expenses are $1,322. Each bedspread costs $8.50 to produce. Complete the table below showing Leonard's business costs as a function of the number of bed sheets that he makes. Well, if Leonard doesn't make any bed sheets at all, then he still has his fixed monthly cost of $1,322. Can't get out of that. That's how much the cost of business was. But what if he's going to make 100 bed sheets? Well, if he makes 100 bed sheets, well, he still has that fixed cost of $1,322, but he's got to add into that 100 bed sheets, in other words, the cost of manufacturing those. So that's going to be $8.50 per bed sheet times 100 bed sheets. And so if we go ahead and run that through our calculator here, let's go ahead and do that on the calculator. We're going to get 1,322 plus 8.5 times 100, which gets you back 2,172. So that would be $2,172. Okay, and we proceed in this fashion. We'd have 1,322 plus 8.5 times 200. And when we do the arithmetic on that, we see that it's $3,022 that we owe. And then etc. until we get out all the way to 400. I'll let you fill in the arithmetic, but this one comes out to be 3,872. And this one comes out to be 4,722. Okay, so those represent his costs based upon how many bed sheets he's made. Okay, so now the next question they ask us is how much money does he make? So he's selling the bed sheets for $17.50. So now we want to compute Leonard's revenue, in other words, how much money he brings in. Well, he's going to make $17.50 for every bed sheet that he makes. If he makes no bed sheets, he makes no money. So that means that his revenue would end up being $0. So what if he makes 100 bed sheets? Well, if he makes 100 bed sheets, then that's going to be 17.50 times 100, which is $1,750. So he'd pull in $1,750 if he makes 100 bed sheets. If he makes 200 bed sheets, that's going to be 1750 times 200. And we do the arithmetic on that, that's 3,500. Okay, continuing on in the same fashion with the arithmetic here, you'd get 5,250 for 300 bed sheets and $7,000 if you did 400 bed sheets. Okay, so now we got to talk about the great American capitalism. We've got to talk about profit here. Okay, so how do we make profit? So profit, the definition for profit is that the profit based on the number of things that you manufacture is going to be equal to the revenue of how many of those things you manufacture minus the cost of how many of those things you manufacture. In other words, profit is how much money you make over and above your costs. So what we need to do to calculate profit is we need to subtract the cost from the revenue. In other words, we need to take these numbers right here and subtract them from those numbers right down there. Okay, so for the first cell, P of n would be P of 0, and P of 0 is going to be equal to R of 0 minus C of 0. Okay, well, R of 0 was equal to 0, and C of 0 was equal to 1,322. So that means our profit would be minus 1,322. We'd have a loss of $1,322. Okay, so moving along in that same fashion here, we're going to take our revenue and subtract costs from it. So we're going to take this cost right here, the 2,172, and subtract that from the 1,750. And when you do that arithmetic, you get minus 422. Same thing here. You're going to take that 3,022 and subtract that from the 3,500. Now we're actually starting to make some money. So now Leonard made $478. Okay. And then the 3,872, subtract that from the 5,250, and he makes 1,378. And if he makes 400 bed sheets, he's going to make $2,278. Hopefully you can make these things quickly, right? All right, now using the information that we got from above, we want to figure out how to write these functions in the general form. In other words, we want to write them as a function of n. So let's come back up and look at each one of them individually. So notice that our cost function, C of n, where n is this number right here, that's the number that we actually manufactured, is going to be 1,322 plus 8.5 times n. Our revenue function, same idea here. Notice that this value right here, that's our n. So our revenue function as a function of n is going to be equal to 1,750 times n. And our profit function as a function of n, our P of n, well, now that we know what R of n and C of n are, we're going to simply substitute those in there. That's going to be 17.5 times n. Subtract parentheses. Do not forget your parentheses here. Very important. 1,322 plus 8.5 n. Okay, now when we simplify that, distribute the 1 here. In other words, think about this as being a -1 right here, and distribute there and to change the signs and simplify up all of that arithmetic, and you'll end up with 9n minus 1322. Okay? All right, so let's go fill those in. Let's go put them over here where they belong. So that's going to be 1,322 plus 8.5 n, and then it's going to be 1750, or 17.5 if you prefer, times n, and then our profit function is going to be 9n minus 1,322. Okay, so using the table in part C, make a rough estimate for the number of bedspreads a lender needs to sell in his business to break even. Okay, I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here to work. So hang on just a second here. We'll get rid of all of our work here. Okay, so let's take a look at the table here, and we notice in the table that there was a change right here. In other words, the profit function is where we need to take a look at. So the break-even point means that the profit is equal to 0. Profit equal to 0 means that your costs and your revenue were equal to each other. It means you have made just enough money to cover your cost, but you haven't made any profit yet. Okay, so we see it's got to be somewhere between 100 and 200, and the revenue being enough to match our cost in there. Okay, so as a guess, remember they're asking us for n here. As a guess, we could say n is, say, 150 to split the difference between 100 and 200. So say n is approximate. Remember the squiggles are approximately equal to 150. So notice that that's all I'm doing is saying, hey, pick an n of about 150, and I know somewhere between 100 and 200 I broke even. So now using the formula for profit P, determine the exact number of bedspreads that a lender needs to sell for his business to break even. Okay, so what that means is that we're going to come over here and take our profit function, our P of n, which was equal to 9n minus 1,322, and we're going to set that equal to 0. In other words, set the profit equal to 0, which means make P of n equal to 0. So if I do that, P of n is equal to 0, that means that 9n minus 1,322 is equal to 0, or 1,322 is equal to 9n, divide both sides by 9, and we end up with what, 146.8 repeating is equal to n. So lender needs to make about 147 bed sheets to break even. So he needs to make You can't make a partial bed sheet. That doesn't make any sense, right? 147 bed sheets. Well, I hope that this has been useful and that this all makes sense now. If not, please do not be shy about asking additional questions where I lost you, where I can make things clearer.